And we are live with another broadcast, the Roofing on the Rise Studios, where we bring you the roofing innovation. We are sponsored by Roofing Supply Incorporated here in the Houston marketplace, where you can get your shingles from me. Telephone number 210-919-8987. Again, 210-919-8987. We are also sponsored by West Group Public Adjusters. You get an awesome experience for your client, the claims handling. You need an awesome public adjuster appraiser, give us a call. Telephone number 210-919-8987. We'll get you hooked up. Today is just a little bit different of a day. It's an amazing podcast. It's always an amazing podcast. But today we have the CEO of Euroshield Rubber Roofing, Leslie. Leslie, how are you doing today?
Doing well. Made it back to Calgary after a couple of trips down to Mobile, Alabama in the last couple of weeks, but having fun. We're having a strong start to fall.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You know, to be able to watch the mobilization from Euroshield to get to Alabama, to get that taken care of and have all the moving pieces was definitely impressive. And I tip my hat off to you for responding in that respect. So today we're going to talk a little bit about we'll just rub all over it. This warranty debate, this debacle, like it covered Facebook. I seen it on Threads. It was everywhere that I looked. Whenever I pulled up my phone after I came out of my studio about a week ago, this faded peak that we've seen, it was looming, and I had no clue what was going on. Like I said, I just came out of my studio from shooting, and so, you know, a big shout out to Mike Eiman up in Dallas, Texas. Mike was like, "Hey man, there's something going on right now. I think you really need to pay attention to it." And so he sent me, you know, all these little snippets from all these, you know, spots. That was pretty interesting. Leslie, when this blew up like that, how did you feel? Like what was going through your head whenever this hit the media? You there?
Oh, there we go. We're back. Let's see. You able to see me?
Yep,
Okay.
there you are.
Okay. So I caught the majority of that. Your question one more time, please.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, you know, once this hit, you know, Facebook and all the social, you know, I mean, it hit, you know, a lot of platforms really quick. What's going through your head? Like, how did you feel? You know, what was the initial like thought?
Timing wise, I had been down there with our warranty manager and had actually just left that property and been on the roof, together with our warranty manager in the attic, talking with the homeowner, and so was very, very familiar with what was happening there. From a homeowner perspective, I knew that he was comfortable with our conversation that we had, and he had given me the feedback that he had a great roof and a fantastic warranty. And so when all of this came to light, there were some different opinions on how to respond, and we had people that were reaching out that were concerned, that said, okay, we should maybe go ahead and do a cease and desist, for example. But to me, I'm not a big fan of that. Really, I'd rather for us just to be able to have the opportunity to talk about what's happening in this specific case. We also had people that are current customers, roofing contractors, come forward and reach out and say, hey, we know that this is not an issue with the batch being an incorrect mix or something like that, that it's related to the ventilation on this specific roof. One of our customers actually, when he saw the post, he has been installing our product for over 7 years, and he asked that that he be a part of seeing for himself what was going on this roof and providing input and feedback. And so instead of doing a cease and desist and just trying to stop the conversation, instead, I reached back out to the homeowner and just verified that he was comfortable with the conversation that we had just had, and from there asked if it would be okay for us to come back and video what we were actually seeing there, and be able to share it in a more factual way. And so we left on a Friday. We turned around. We were back there the following Tuesday. So that and the second time around, other than myself, we had TJ McCormick that was there to host the live, as well as Matt Mulholland, who is very familiar from a technical point of view with many roof systems, and he also had a thermal camera on his drone there, so was able to capture some of the data. And then we also had Chase Johnson, owner of Johnson Construction, Denver, Colorado, that has installed our roofs for a number of years, installed a very, very significant number of squares, both on single family residences as well as more multifamily projects, come out and just see for himself what he saw. And in general, what we saw when I was there the first time, it was about 85 degrees ambient air temperature. The
Okay.
attic is a very large attic. It's about 3,000 square feet, but then in addition to that, it's a very large volume. And because we're dealing with about a 10-12 pitch on this one, and it's really just one large open room. And so inside that attic, it was about 91 degrees. What we could see from the surface temperature, and the surface temperature, like a shingle or any other type of product, will change depending on if it's overcast or sun is directly shining on it. But what we saw for the majority of the field is that we had a surface temperature of 145 degrees. But at the peak, there is a solar attic fan. And what that solar attic fan was doing was pumping out a high volume of air that was at that 91 degree temperature that we saw inside that attic space. And so instead of the material being superheated around that vent, it actually was significantly cooler than the surface temperature of the majority of the roof. So what we saw there really was more of a 50 degree variation in temperature between the surface of the shingles out in normal conditions, away from any other fans or vents, and then a surface temperature closer to 95 around that vent. And so what's happening there is the volume of air and all of that cooling is actually slowing down our weathering in process. So this is a roof that had been there for about 8 months. And what we see in our weathering in process is that it's fairly accelerated. So it really does happen mostly in that first year. And our product is very unique in that it is about 70% recycled tires. And what ends up happening with that is that weathering in process, you can relate to a tire itself. And when you have a brand new tire, the surface sheen, it's got a sheen to it, it's shiny. And once it weathers in, then it goes to a matte finish. And so that's part of what we see in this specific case, is that sheen is taking longer to dissipate because that roof is so much cooler around that vent. And then in addition to that, it's also slowing down the weathering in process from the standpoint that when you color a product, whether it's paint or vinyl siding or any type of plastic, polymer-based lawn furniture, or in our case, a rubber shingle, when it's subjected to UV, the color pigmentations break down to a certain extent. And so as those color pigmentations break down, and this particular roof is gray, and so that aluminum oxide, is affected by the materials it's mixed with, and the UV and the heat that it sees. And so as they weather in to more of a steady state that you see after that roof is weathered in, instead of our product going lighter, like a vinyl siding or polymer furniture, it actually darkens. And the reason for that is as that color pigmentation changes, a product is going to trend towards its base color. Where with plastic-based products, depending on the actual polymer they're using and whether it's prime, whether it's virgin or recycled materials, might be a translucent or a white or a gray. And so as those color pigments shift, the overall color of the product gets lighter. And ours, actually the reverse happens because our base color is black with the recycled tire content. And the reason it's black is the amount of carbon black there, which is a fantastic UV inhibitor. It's part of what makes our product different and withstand the test of time better than, say, a polymer based chair that after a while will become brittle and maybe crack.
So, all right, let's get into the curing process, since that's kind of what we're talking about right here. Later on, we'll kind of get into a couple of the other questions that a couple of our viewers had. So, I know we were talking about how the air was being taken out of the property with that solar attic vent, and be it that the body of the shingle and that peak area, because of the air coming out, was a different temperature there than the rest of the body of the shingle. So everyone stayed, on this, because I know it could get technical, but this is why we did this, right? So how does the curing process of rubber roofing work, and what impact does temperature have on the curing process?
So the curing process, really, it's affected by two things. It's both UV exposure and as well as temperature. And we know that it's UV exposure in terms of if you have a property where you've got a lot of trees overhead, and you can see some of the coloration differences if you've got an area that's heavily shaded versus an area that's exposed to UV. But again, that is a combination of two things. It's really both temperature and UV. Part of what an exterior building material has to go through, in our case, roof coverings, in the roof covering category, is an accelerated weatherometer test. And so those standards that meet the building code classifications are there in order to accelerate testing and show what will happen to a product, say, for example, in a 2,000-hour test. And during that 2,000-hour test, what a product has to show is that it can handle different cycles of UV as well as temperature swings, and then still have properties that are going to protect that homeowner or building owner over time. And so because both temperature and UV matter, that's why part of those test requirements cycle through at an accelerated rate, more so than if you were just leaving a shingle out in the elements will do, to show that there's a higher probability that building product is going to withstand the test of time and be something that should be certified to be able to be used, within the U.S. or Canadian market, and every country has its own set of code requirements.
What type of testing is undergone before a rubber product is used, like your product?
So from a testing point of view, we have to be able to meet building code, and in addition to that weatherometer testing, where it's an accelerated test so that building product manufacturers have a way to go to market faster than just letting a shingle sit there for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. In addition to that, there's also a series of tests that relate to the actual properties and how brittle a product might be, as well as water penetration properties for a roof covering, and then also fire and how resistant to fire it is, and wind and how resistant to wind it is. And from a wind point of view, there are different codes depending on which market you're in. For example, if you're in a hurricane market, there are more significant wind tests, whether it be a straight wind, as well as uplift testing, where basically the material undergoes suction to see how long it takes to actually have the deck fail or the product pull out of the deck. And then also wind-driven rain, where it has to go through a series of driving rain tests with different wind speeds, and then sit for a period of time and see whether or not any of the water penetration that might have been blown underneath that roofing product, if it actually comes down below the fasteners or below the deck through the fastener holes or not.
Okay. So I'm going to kind of switch it up a little bit. All right. So we're going to go from curing to the initial issue, right? So this was brought on by an alleged rep from a roofing company. The contractor that brought the situation to light alleged that Euroshield initially approved repairs and even sent out material to achieve this, but then reversed their decision. Is this true? And if so, why?
It's not true that we reversed our decision. So we had a conversation together with the contractor, based on what we were seeing in this particular situation. And what we assessed was that, of course, it was something that was caused by the vent. One possibility that the contractor was interested in was changing the type of ventilation system so that there wasn't a power vent. The homeowner wasn't particularly interested in that, just because we're talking about Mobile, Alabama,
right?
And he didn't want to have the heat build up. He wanted to keep a power fan, because with any roof covering, it's part of an overall system, and that overall system is, of course, going to be affected by things like ventilation or what might be coming out of any type of vent, whether it be a stove vent, a bathroom vent, attic vent. And so what we said is that in this particular situation, the fact that this material hasn't weathered in to the same extent as the rest of the roof isn't covered under manufacturer's defect warranty, because it's not a defect of the product. We don't have an issue with our formula in this situation. It's part of the overall system. We agreed to make an exception, and we agreed that we would send material if the contractor and homeowner together elected that they would prefer to move weathered in material to the peak of this roof, and then take material from a different lot and then replace a full slope. So Like with any material, there is lot to lot color
Hmm.
variation with our product. Unless it's black, we do allow for customers to mix two different lots if it's our black colored shingle. But if it's anything other than black, they need to separate lots by slope.
Okay.
And so because the material, because we're 8 months past, our original install, we said, if you would like to take material from a weathered in slope and move it around, we will agree to send material to replace a full slope of the original lot of material with a new with material from a new lot. But when you do this, you have to fully replace an entire slope. Um, Really, like I said, it was done as an exception where
Yeah.
we had agreed to ship the material, but we had not agreed to pay labor, knowing that it's really not something that it's a Euroshield warranty claim.
Okay.
But we wanted to make sure that we were also coming to the plate if somebody decided that they wanted to go ahead and switch out that material.
Okay, cool. So you were making right by the situation regardless. I like to hear that. So my question, right? Because this is the first thing that comes to my mind whenever uh talking about a we're not talking about shingles, right? We're talking about like a synthetic slate here. And this is it's not a cheap shingle, right? So are these jobs spec'd? Is there a specification on the job for what you can put and where?
You mean as far as, do we have specifications, whether it be regarding pitch, ventilation,
Yep.
whatnot? Okay, yes.
Yes.
So,
Vent. So
so
let's talk, exhaust vent, not just a vent to ventilate the air, but also exhaust. Do you have a spec out for, say, around a chimney, etc.? Because that's the first thing that comes to my mind on these jobs is, was the job specced out, and was the ventilation included into that spec?
so from a ventilation point of view, we do have installation guides, and in order for, say, the warranty to apply, the manufacturer's defect warranty to apply, uh, someone needs to install that roof to the guidelines. Um, as far as ventilation, what we state is that we require a minimum 2-inch ventilated air gap underneath the deck, so that we know that there's no excess heat buildup when when it comes to the shingle itself. Because no matter what the material is, if you're building a significant amount of heat and superheating that material, it's going to be hard on the life expectancy of it. And that doesn't matter if it's an asphalt shingle or a rubber shingle or a
Right.
plastic shingle. Or and so we give the flexibility that whether you're using power vents, gable vents, ridge vents, box vents, we just want to know that you're not getting excess heat buildup.
Yeah.
Um, it this one was a unique situation with the size of that attic space and the efficiency of, or the amount of airflow from that vent. Um, it's not that we typically see it, and maybe part of it is just the specific visibility on this roof, and that the homeowners, when they selected Euroshield, they expected to stay in this house for a long time to come. Some
Yeah.
things happened in their personal situation where they decided, well, actually, we're going to sell our house. And so this one came to light a little bit more, just with the urgency of it being in a more visible location and people asking questions as to what was going on. And because it was on the market, people, were more interested in what was happening in that specific time frame of 8 months versus potentially waiting for it to weather in further and just understanding options.
Understand. So to get back to the specific question, is there a specific ventilation that is spec'd for the job? So is there a written report that says this is what is approved and this is what's not?
No, not as far as vent manufacturers. Um, and and we don't want to get to that. We don't want to lock anybody down
Yeah.
because obviously there's different regionality
Yep.
with which ventilation manufacturers may be more prevalent. If and not all weather conditions are the same, right? You're sitting in the Houston
Of
area, which
course.
is very
Of
different than
course.
Denver, Colorado.
Lots of manufacturers have that where you can use
Yeah,
what vent you want. I've sat in
yeah,
in trainings where I was like, well, can I put X vent that I'm really, really privy to? I like really, really
hmm
love them. So I'm just like, hey,
yep,
can I put this vent on? And and it's a solar vent too, right? And
hmm
so that question bears to mind because other manufacturers kind of are in the same boat. That's why I asked the question because you know
yeah,
I have the flexibility with a lot of different manufacturers to be able to put in whatever vent that we want and whatever vent that the client wants there. Now,
yes.
the next question would be, how long has Euroshield been in existence?
We have been around for 24 years. We started in 1999.
Wow. Okay. That's a long time. So in 24 years, have you ever had an issue like this?
This one,
Warranty.
yeah, as far as a
I'll be
warranty
specific.
claim are
Faded
concerned.
peaks in a warranty issue.
Well, and I guess just to clarify, it's not a faded peak. It's actually the material around the peak looks like it just basically came from the factory, and the rest of the material around it has weathered in.
Okay, thank
And
you.
yeah,
Yeah. So
is
I think I remember seeing did Matthew put one of the pieces up there and it was like the same color, right? It
yeah. So
just looked
Chase,
like it.
this homeowner spent a significant amount of time selecting Euroshield as their roof covering. He was
Yeah.
quite thorough in his investigation. He, he appreciates the roof that he has. His house is for sale, and he actually has a full size shingle sitting on his kitchen table of one of the shingles from the original lot with one of our
Yeah.
brochures. So when people walk through his house, they know what is on their roof and or their
Wow.
potential roof. And
He loves it.
he does, and the great thing about it is that we were able to take that shingle that came in that specific lot and take it up on the roof and show how that shingle is like the shingles around that vent where it's being
Yeah.
cooled.
So, and I guess, part of this is I have marketed it as a faded peak debate, right? And it's not a faded peak. It's just an uncured peak, right?
That's right.
Um,
It hasn't weathered in.
yeah, it hasn't weathered in. So it just it's crazy to see um that in 24 years there's never been a super cooled area of a roof where it just didn't weather in. Um, it, when
It
approaching this was
yeah,
go ahead.
and it's not that I know whether or not for sure anyone else has seen this and just not said anything because it was on the side of their roof and they just gave it more time. And this one
Yeah,
came more to light because of the timing with the house going on the market. Um, it is different from the standpoint that most houses aren't this size. Most attics aren't that size. That vent is working very efficiently, and so it's different that we
you're like it's
have
working
not
great.
It really is. I'm happy with what I see with that that there's minimal difference in ambient air temperature and
Yeah.
the attic temperature. And the great thing about that is it means that that shingle is in a better scenario where it's not being superheated. And one of the other things this particular roof was you can see how the underside of that deck that day that we went back the second time, we were in the range of 119 degrees, I believe, on the underside of the deck, where the top of the shingles was about 143 degrees. And so there certainly is some amount of insulating properties with our shingle itself. And with our shingle, like an asphalt shingle, you end up with two full layers on that roof. And when you have two
Yeah.
full layers of rubber, or primarily rubber, it's a great insulator. And so we do get comments from homeowners that they have seen positive differences in their summertime utility bills when they
Okay.
go from an asphalt roof to a rubber roof because there is some insulating. Now, of course, that attic temperature
That's
will
it,
heat up if it's
contractors.
not properly
That's good.
ventilated.
That's a good point. I mean, especially if a client is looking into lowering their utility bill, outside of putting on solar. But
Mhm.
you know, and that's kind of like one of the questions as well, because I touch on solar. It's part of what the podcast is about. Um, is Euroshield set up for solar?
We are, yes. And one more comment, just to clarify on my previous comment in the
Yep.
insulating. This particular system was not built with a radiant barrier on the underlay, so there's no factor of a radiant barrier,
Okay.
reflecting the heat out. But yeah, back to solar. Um, Solar is certainly a popular choice on some Euroshield installs. Part of it is homeowners that are more environmentally conscious. When you look at our product, we're really built around two core pillars. Part of that is protecting your home, and part of it is conserving our planet. And so for people that are installing solar, maybe not just as a cost savings, but also more environmentally conscious on how do we do more for renewable energy and things like that. The Euroshield product itself also speaks very well to those homeowners because we're 95% recycled content. 70% of that is tires, and our product lasts significantly longer than asphalt shingles. So we're reducing landfill waste or waste of materials that we don't have enough sources, both on the front end with what we're using to build our materials, as well as on the back end with the longevity of the product. And then in addition to that, because our shingle is a rubber shingle and solar is popular in some very hail prone areas, whether you might be talking about Colorado or Texas, where they also have a significant amount of hail and wind, our product is a better selection for those areas because no other product is going to do better than a rubber shingle when it comes to being able to withstand hail. And then in addition to that, our products physically interlock instead of using a pre-applied sealing strip. So with
Yeah.
that, they also withstand wind better. And nobody wants to worry about having to, remove and reset solar to change out their shingles.
Yeah. Yeah. So a lot more permanent of a solution.
Yes.
Yeah. I like that. Um, and it's actually, I'm honored to have you on today. Thank you, for helping us with this. It's an exciting thing for me because I really like the product and I've been following it for quite some time. So being able to see the response, for this has been definitely impressive. I do want to get into that response though, right? So one of the questions was, what actions did you take to address the homeowner's concerns immediately and resolve the warranty issue?
So as far as our typical process and what happened here, typically what happens is, we have a warranty claim process on our website. This particular situation,
This
uh,
was not that.
that information wasn't filled out, but certainly could have
Yeah.
been. In general, if someone contacts us, they would submit a warranty claim, which is just general information on what product they have, what's their address, who installed it, and then pictures of what they're seeing, as well as a description of their
So
concern.
let's be
And
clear
then from
so that
there,
everybody knows. This was not done with this property.
this one wasn't. This one we reviewed without the official warranty claim process, but in general, for sure, we're cleaning up all of our processes. Where in the future, the expectation is that everything is going through there. So we've captured all the information, but regardless, we want to make sure once that the contractor had reached out to our rep, and then more people from our main office were brought into the conversation, that we review pictures, we talk about what's happening, and we make an assessment. And then in this particular case, because
So,
there
so this
it was a
originated
little
from
bit
contractor, not client.
correct.
Okay.
Now
I'm just trying to get the facts straight.
probably the client from our side. Now
Yeah.
I don't know for sure, but it very well could be that the homeowner reached out to the contractor. I don't know.
Right.
I wasn't
Okay.
involved at that point.
Yeah.
Um, and so from there, we made an assessment, we decided to ship material, and then because it was something that was out of the norm, we did also choose to go visit the property. And so when we visited the property, then we were clearly able to see with data and reading temperatures, uh, what was happening there, and also from being on the roof and in the attic, see specifically what was happening there, and have a detailed conversation together with the homeowner, as well as reviewing options, and make sure that the homeowner was comfortable with that assessment, and then follow up with the contractor on what it was that we had seen there. And one thing that we did see is that the crew did a really great job installing that roof. So it's a
It
nice
looked
clean install.
gorgeous. Yeah.
Yeah,
It looked
it is a
even
nice clean
on the
install.
drone, you could see, the quality of the install.
Mhm.
It it looked really good. So I'm just astounded that and this, it's what happens in situations like this. Things get blown out of proportion, all right? And so one of the things that was alleged was that Euroshield signed off, and this was alleged by the alleged sales rep. I'm saying alleged a lot, but I'm trying to stay in, good context here. The alleged rep from the roofing company alleged that Euroshield signed off on the ventilation setup and that it was an approval system by code. Was this a miscommunication, or is there any light that you could shed on this to explain why he would say that?
We don't. We hadn't been asked to review and sign anything specifically related to the ventilation system. In general, as far as the ventilation system that was selected, it does the job, right? So it makes sure that
Yeah.
it's well ventilated, that it's not building excess heat in the attic. So it's not that we have an issue with the system that is there. It's just
Yeah.
that because of the volume of the cooler air, it's taking longer to weather in. Um, it and in general, that homeowner has a very large home in a very warm climate, and he wants to make sure he has the best ventilation possible. They don't
Yeah.
actually want to remove that power vent. There are things that could be done to allow that material to weather in that we did talk about together with the homeowner, whether you turn off that vent and temporarily, they have a faux window where if you wanted to remove the glazing and allow the warm air, to ventilate out through, or to exhaust through a different area, you could allow that material to weather in faster than it will
Yeah.
otherwise. But his comfort level is leaving things as they are. So we don't have an issue with that system because roofing is an overall system. Certainly different materials or vents or whatever it might be will interact differently than if you select another method. We still don't have an issue with what's there. The homeowner is comfortable with it. He is choosing not to allow that area to weather in at an accelerated rate by changing out that vent or turning it off for a period of time.
Mm. So, I mean, I lived in Mobile. I went to school in Sims, Alabama, which is right there. So it is sticky. I could see why he wants to have a good ventilation coming out of that. Ladies and gentlemen, Mobile is like Houston, but more like Houston sweaty armpit. Uh, it just is. It's a very moist and warm climate. Um, so my thing is like education, right? Um, Most people when you inquire about Euroshield, they either don't know enough about the product to say anything, or they absolutely love it, right? There's really no like in between there. Um, so know that this interview comes from a place of love, right? What could contractors do? What precautionary measures and observations should contractors that are looking to install Euroshield make to prevent something like this from happening?
In general, for sure, like I said, we didn't want to hide this scenario either. Is it different than what we typically hear about? Are there plenty of other power vents out there on Euroshield? Absolutely. Um, we're open for questions, right? So it's and if there are concerns after the fact, we do want to talk about it. We are our new warranty manager. We've got multiple people in the company that have experience from a technical standpoint that contractors are able to reach out and talk with about any questions. Our warranty manager himself, he has been a roofing contractor for the last 19 years. 18 years of that, he has been installing Euroshield. He has installed every single
Wow.
product that we've ever put on, as well as been on aged roofs to see how they're weathering in, or let's say he's going up to replace a skylight or something that in an older roof. He actually has that scenario on one of his jobs right now where they had a skylight that was destroyed by hail, and so they
Mm.
have to go replace that skylight, but absolutely nothing wrong with the shingles themselves.
So
So we're
that
here for questions. Yeah.
so I mean, so it only begs, like, in that situation, um, they may have to replace some Euroshield product there, right?
No.
Depending upon the,
So
is it just the dome, or are they gonna?
it's no, it's okay to carefully remove Euroshield shingles and reinstall them. And so in this case,
Okay.
that's what he will do.
Okay.
One thing
Cool.
that's different about our product, because it is rubber based, it maintains flexibility. And so even if it's one of our interlocking products, It's which the majority of them are. We did have a period of time where we used pre-applied sealing strips, but we went away from that and make everything, mechanically interlocking with a tongue and groove system. But you can flex that shingle, unlock it, pull the nails, and if you hand nail back in so that you're using the same nail locations as you were before, it's okay to reinstall those shingles around those penetrations.
Yeah, this is not asphalt. This
That's
is
right.
a lot different, and so that's very common with like clay tile and concrete tile.
Hmm.
They'll take it off, move it around, even take it off the roof. And then I know a lot of people that will resell that material, like the homeowners, the
Yes.
investors. They actually look for those recycled material to put on a roof. So, um, yeah, I'm all game on that. That's actually, I mean, if I was the contractor, that's really probably how I would do it, how I would want to do it, because you know, you would be dealing with a similar situation, installing new product on an old product, so it's gonna look different and it's gonna take time to
Mhm.
fade in, and it's just never gonna look like the rest of the roof. Um,
Yeah, and to your point, for sure, that let's say someone has a skylight, but they've had all kinds of leaking issues and they're just fed up with it, and they've got a Euroshield roof, but they want to do away with the skylight. So in
yeah,
a situation like that, what we recommend is you remove that skylight, you take material that's from the same lot, that's weathered in, for the same number of years, and then you take that and strip a certain slope and use that material to fill in, and then use material from a new lot on its own separate slope in order to account for needing more material to fill in that skylight, as an example.
awesome, awesome. Um, what? Let's see. See the next question. We hit a lot of these questions already, which is cool. You're really like you were on it. You were really, really on it with this. Um, has the manufacturer made any changes or improvements to their products or manufacturing process based on this particular warranty issue? Is there anything that you're putting into place to change this from happening in the future?
No, it doesn't change our our formula. It doesn't change our warranty. It's just understanding that, yeah, this potentially could happen. Different base materials are used for different colors. So, in the case of our grays, it's aluminum oxides that are used. With our browns, it's iron oxides. With our blacks, it's carbon black. Um, we know that those aluminum oxides will shift more, say, than the iron oxides typically do, but that just really has to do more with the base material and how it's influenced by the products it's mixed with, and UV and heat. Um, but it doesn't change the material. It won't change the formulation of the material.
Can you share any success stories or positive experiences where the warranty process has been effectively resolved, providing satisfactory outcome for both the manufacturer and the customer? Now, I know in this situation, you pretty much have done that. Outside of this situation, has there been any other warranty issues that have been successfully navigated?
Oh, I mean, sure, we've been around 24 years, and part of the synthetics category is, where there are there are a handful of us that have been around since the second half of the 90s. There have been a number of synthetics manufacturers that have come and gone, and with the synthetics industry, it's something where you see what happens in the field. You make modifications, both to your formula and to the actual physical design of your product to make improvements, or you die. It's one or the other. So um, there are just a handful of us that have been around for that amount of time, and it it's it's something where we have certainly made adjustments over that 24-year period. All of our products to this point all mechanically interlock or physically interlock with a tongue and groove system, so we know that we can provide extreme wind resistance, including roofs that made it through Hurricane Ian, where all the neighbors' roofs were tarped. It
I seen that. That was
Yes,
that's a feat right there. You know, the roof was intact from my recollection, right? Nothing wrong with the
that's
roof
correct.
through a hurricane, and it was a
Not
class
only that,
4. It was
it
it was
was
it was a category 4
it was
hurricane.
intense.
Yeah,
It was
and
intense,
it
including a couple of palm trees in the front yard that literally
freaking
bounced off the
buildings
roof
and
and hit
stuff
the
were
ground.
gone, and the roof is still there. That's
Yeah.
impressive. Absolutely impressive.
Yeah.
I'm gonna, I'm gonna say, like, I love the Euroshield product. I think it's an amazing innovation to the roofing industry. I think that the roofing industry needs to push more of this, because instead of a turn and burn situation with your client, you you ensure an amazing client customer experience with the outcome of a amazing product that they don't have to worry about. And who do you think that they're going to refer the next time someone says, I don't want to mess with my roof again? Say, you know what? This guy. And not only that, but it's going to look great. You know, um, what kind of education is there on the manufacturer side for the client on the curing process? And is there some sort of, I don't know, like a rule or a guide that they go by, ensuring that the client understands what the curing process looks like?
The most common questions that come up, just because of what our material is, has to do with the sheen and the odor. So from a sheen point
Mm,
of view, just like a new tire, there is a sheen to it that typically dissipates in the first few months. And of course, that's going to depend on how much weather that roof is seeing. If you install in November and it's covered with snow for the next 4 months, it's certainly going to take longer than if it's a roof that's installed in May and sees the summer right away. And how many trees you have overhead, and so that sheen, we typically will say, give it the first season. And then in addition to that, because our product is 70% recycled tires, and we primarily are a make to order manufacturer, when that material is delivered and you open up that 2,000-pound pallet, it
wow.
smells like new tires. And
Wow.
so again, how quickly that dissipates just depends on the weather in that particular situation. But yeah, in those cases, we'll typically say, give it a couple of months. It's usually faster. Some places you won't notice it at all. Some you will. Um, where we typically see the most feedback and something like that, let's say we are in the Midwest and it's an early May install, and it's a 2-story house where there are roof slopes that are down at the first level. And so they have their windows open, they have a brand new roof, they have their second story bedroom windows open. That's where it's going to be more noticeable while that roof weathers in. But again, it's a temporary thing. And So if people have noticed, maybe they've changed out and they've got a new set of tires on their vehicle and they pull it into their garage, and for the first, few weeks when they go out to their garage, might smell like new tires, but that dissipate that dissipates, fairly rapidly, and is able to weather in and cure, and then it's not something that's an issue from that point.
Why should a contractor contact Euroshield for a sample, for education? Why should they use Euroshield?
So part of it really comes down to one, um, differentiation. Do
Okay.
you want to differentiate yourself? There are a lot of very competitive roofing markets out there, and there are plenty of people that are scared or not motivated enough to do something outside of a typical asphalt shingle. So it is a point of differentiation. If you're in a very heavy storm market and your goal is to provide the best solution for your homeowners, uh, we would love to talk with you about, for your specific area, what the advantages to installing Euroshield are. From a protecting your home point of view, our UV resistance is extremely strong with the amount of carbon black. We do specify the type of tires as well, because not all tires are created equal. So we're just using the ones really that surpass the other types of tires in terms of longevity. And then in addition to that, when it comes to wind and hail, being a rubber product that interlocks, really bring it. As far as weatherproofing, we're not concerned about there being any leaking issues. Just have to be careful around flashings and things like that. With anything else,
Yeah, I think I've seen people
that's where
like,
you,
wait, Matthew has done the Canon against it.
yes,
I've seen it.
yes,
Actually, that's where I think we met at IRE in Dallas, shooting the gun there. I did a little recording there. It was pretty cool. I've seen quite a few people take like hatchets, and they've gotten really, really, really. I mean, hold on, Mike Iman. I think he shot a
there
beer
you go.
can at it. Okay. So like everybody has gotten really creative with what they like thought in their head, like, I wonder if Euroshield can take this and just like,
Yeah,
hold my beer and let's figure this out. and I haven't seen one time where Euroshield hasn't taken that test, where it's failed in some way, shape, form, or fashion, uh, which is quite impressive, for someone looking at the product. Um, is it like extremely expensive? Is it affordable? What exactly is the price margin there? You don't have to say price or what have you, but is it
yeah,
comparable to, like, say, Decra or synthetic slate or what have you?
yeah. It's for our products for the homeowner, there's some regionality to it, of course, but
Yeah.
in general, you're about two times a standard asphalt shingle. Now,
Okay.
complexities will come into that, and that's an installed price for the
Yeah.
homeowner. What you'll see is labor for our products will start around where, say, a tri-laminate or a designer series
Yep.
asphalt shingle, where you're having to
Okay.
take a little bit more time. Where it can creep up from there is how many different valleys do you have? How many dormers do you have to go around, as far as,
Mm,
snapping a few extra chalk lines? But we're
okay.
happy to help out. We've got installation overview videos, detailed guides. We hop on a lot of video calls to run through different scenarios with new contractors that have questions on install.
And how can a contractor get a hold of Euroshield if they want to get more information about the product and be able to make an informed decision?
Yeah, yeah, you can either submit request on our website at euroshieldroofing.com. you can reach out to any of our reps. You can reach out to us on Facebook or different social media platforms, or give us a call. So we're happy to talk with anyone that's interested. If there are any specific questions or concerns regarding anybody's particular region or specific application, it's also a product. It's used in a lot of different scenarios. Part of it has to do with weather conditions and hail and straight winds or hurricanes. But then also we see a lot of churches, banks, commercial type properties where they know it's going to be there for a long time, and as well as some historic areas that allow slate look or shake look products to be installed. We're going to do a bit of a historic tour here in the next month or two where we'll be going live to show a historic home in an actual historic neighborhood that requires pre-approval being installed. And then from there, driving to a couple of other locations to show a church that's been re-roofed from slate with our rubber roofing product, as well as a couple of other commercial properties.
That's awesome. And is there anything that that you just want to get out, that you want to tell everyone about Euroshield?
Don't be afraid to contact us. Don't be afraid to ask for samples or pricing. We're happy to talk with you. Please reach out. If you decide it's not for you, that's fair, but don't be shy to start the discussion.
Don't be a chicken. Ladies and gentlemen, we have had an amazing live stream today. This has touched on so many questions that people had about the product. Thank you so much, Leslie, for coming on today and helping us with this and really being educational and informing everybody.
Thanks for inviting me, Marquise. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. I'm so happy that you came on. Today and every day, we are sponsored by Roofing Supply Incorporated in the Houston marketplace, where you can get your shingles from me. Telephone number 210-919-8987. Again, 210-919-8987. Just got off a 6,000 square job. Got to go do a 2,020 square shingle order. So you guys, if you're looking for one square or thousands of squares, give me a call. Again, we are sponsored by West Group Public Adjusters. You're looking for an amazing public adjusting experience, reach out. I'll get you in contact. We are also sponsored by RepCard. You're looking for an amazing digital business card experience. RepCard is the option for you. Again, it's been a live stream. Thank you so much. Guys, have a wonderful day.